speed limit that changes at the top of the hill goes from 25 to 45. And this becomes a very attractive speed area for kids and people who have hot cars. And I'm a car guy myself, but this is a totally preventable, unnecessary tragedy that did not have to happen. But because of drinking and driving being combined, one man unfortunately lost his life and two others are in pretty serious situation. And of course they've done, tremendous harm to themselves and scared the hell out of us. Very nearly killed the neighbor next door because her daughter was unloading a horse from a horse cart about 8 feet from where the skid marks are on this particular accident.
So you're sitting inside?
Actually, I was taking my trash out, and I was down by the blue trash can, and I heard the car hit the gas. I heard him put it into a higher gear, and then I heard him speeding down the hill, and suddenly they hit the brakes. And I looked out, and I saw a car come ripping right through the front of my yard, hit the fairly substantial blocks, flip up, take off the top of my tree, come down and flip over 2 more times, and skidded to within 3 feet of my little red Chrysler. And checking to make sure I hadn't wet myself, that's as close as I've ever been without being in an accident. I ran right in immediately and phoned. And there were people on the scene, of course, next door. Our neighbor came across, and she very quickly, saw what needed to be done. And the gentleman was thrown from the vehicle. No seatbelt. So what's wrong with this situation? Drinking, excessive speed, no seatbelt. It's a recipe for tragedy. Anywhere in the county where there's these kind of conditions, it's just a matter of time. So we're hoping Diane Jacobs or any of our other local law or legislative people can take a serious look to prevent further unnecessary loss.
So I assume at some point, though, you run up to the car. I mean, was anybody able to get out of the car? Or did you have to?
Yes. The people that were here, there were 4 or 5 people, neighbors, that came immediately hearing the brakes and the screeching and the bumps. My neighbor next door and his son came out, and folks were being helped out. They were seat belted in, so they were able to get them out of the car. They were scratched and pretty tore up, but they were able to get them stabilized. And by the time I turned the phone over to my wife and ran back out to see if anything could be done medically to help, if there was anything that could be done, the law enforcement, sheriffs and others were pulling up, and the ambulances and the fire.
And you mentioned alcohol. How do you know?
The one person who came over first smelled alcohol as he was talking to the people that had survived. And so we were, praise God, it could have been, if my little white truck, which ordinarily sits right in front where those blocks are now, had been there, that car would have gone right in through my front room, my living room, and taken out most of the front of our house, and that's our dining room right behind that window, right behind the mailbox. So this was, very nearly a more serious tragedy.
Did you ever see these guys before? Do you know who they were?
No, I don't, but my neighbor knew them, and I believe they were members of a local car club, and these were decent, wonderful men.
Right.
From everything.
How old, have you had an age?
50s.
Really?
Yes.
So, I mean, these aren't kids.
No,
should know
these
better.
are men who are older and probably know better. And we're probably just having a Dennis Morgan, Morgan.
Any common spelling on Dennis?
Dennis.
Thank you.
Name's Officer Joe Nielsen with the California Highway Patrol out of El Cajon. Signed up here to the Ramona resident post.
Hey, can you spell your first and last name for us?
Our first name is Joe, J-O-E, and the last is Nielsen, N-I-E-L-S-E-N.
And what do you know about what happened after today?
Well, today at about 3:20 this afternoon, we received a call of an overturned vehicle. up here on Ashley Road. Upon arriving up there, we were notified by the witnesses that they had heard a vehicle at a high rate of speed coming down the street, and all they heard were tires skidding, and they could obviously hear the overturn of the vehicle. At this time, we know that it was an older model car. There were 3 males inside the vehicle. One individual was ejected from that vehicle. At this time, currently it is believed that alcohol was a factor and seatbelts were not worn at the time of the crash.
By anybody?
At this time, by at least one that we know of.
And do we know where that person was sitting who was ejected?
At this time, it's still under investigation. What I can tell you that all individuals in the vehicle are from local Ramona at this time.
And any idea why the car went out of control? I guess there was a horse being backed out of a carriage at that time, or?
You know, I can't, I don't know anything about that at this moment. What I can tell you though is, based on what we know, the vehicle was at a high rate of speed coming down the hill. And for an unknown reason, the driver lost control of the vehicle, which caused him to run off the road into the driveway area of this house here behind me, overturning and ejecting one individual.
What can you tell us about that driver?
Well, the driver was arrested. Everything's still under investigation, pending further investigation, possible DUI driver.
Was he hospitalized?
Yes, all parties were hospitalized. Other 2 individuals in the vehicle were taken to the hospital for their injuries.
So what has he been charged with?
Right now, it's under investigation, but just for the DUI crash. At this time, that's about all I can say on that for it.
What can you tell us about this road? Talking to neighbors, they say that there's something about it that just attracts speed. Have you got problems on here?
Well, Ramona being a rural town, we do have a lot of other roads like this. They're not, it's just a country road. People do come down here pretty fast. It does have a nice slope on it. People do race every now and then up there. It is actually a very nice area. And I do know the residents have complained about the speed at times. At this time, you know, in this crash in particular, the main factors involving are speed. We believe alcohol, and we also believe that the lack of seatbelts were the factors in this collision.